Hello everyone, welcome to this week's video. This is Lala from theRainQueen.com. So this week's video is about growing herbs, fruit and vegetables indoors. As some of you will know, I have a really big garden in South Africa and I've got chickens, we've got a couple of dogs, and I grow my herbs, fruit and vegetables outdoors. So here in Shanghai, I have an apartment and I'm up on a very high floor, but I wanted to keep growing herbs, fruit and vegetables. So in order to have this joy in my life, I've had to make some adjustments from what I'm used to doing at home. So here I grow my fruit and vegetables indoors, and I also have a balcony, a small little balcony, where I have a little bit of space to grow. Now, what I've done is I've got potted plants and vegetables, and this works out quite well for me. And I'm going to explain some of the requirements for getting your fruit, herbs, and vegetables to be happy indoors. So I'll start with showing you what I've got here. This is rosemary, a really wonderful fragrant herb for roasting. It goes well with lamb, and if you love to have a bit of a drink, you can also put this in gin. This is very popular to do in South Africa. We put almost an entire salad in our gin. So rosemary is a really great herb to have around. And these are peppers or chilies, depending on where you come from in the world. This variety is called Carnival. It's most often sold actually as an ornamental. I bought this as an ornamental, but they are edible. I've been eating them for years. So you can eat these, but what you need to make sure of before you start eating them is that you've kept them for at least a month or so to let anything that may have been sprayed on them to sort of get out of the plant system. So you water them with clean water, you use your organic herbicides, if they've got any, foreign plants growing in there. If you have, like things like lice or anything that you don't want on the plant, any bugs, only use organic insecticides as well. And my favorite organic insecticide is something that you might have in your kitchen and you can eat it, canola oil. So if I notice any soft-bodied insects on these plants, I just douse the plant and the insects in canola oil and it smothers them, and it's very safe. So to make sure that you don't get exposed to any chemical herbicides, pesticides or anything like that from these store-bought vegetables, just keep them for at least a month or two, watering them and only using organic things on the plants. That way you make sure that they're safe to eat. And in fact, if you buy it with peppers already on, I would actually take off all the peppers and then you wait for your own crop of peppers to start on the plants, just in case there's anything that's built up in the plants. But as you can see here, I've had this one for already a couple of months and the plant has started to make new flowers. So if you've got a plant that you've bought and you want to get your own fruit from this chili plant, you don't need to wait very long. Like after 2 months, if the weather is starting to warm up, you will start to get new flowers and new fruit. So I need to take these off. I haven't been eating much of these hot peppers, so I need to take off the old ones so that the new ones can have enough energy to grow. So chilies like a lot of light, so make sure that you've got it as close to the light as possible. They like to dry out as well, just a little bit between watering, so don't keep them too soggy. The same goes for lavender. As far as I know, it's not lavender, rosemary. As far as I know, it's a Mediterranean plant, so they also like a lot of sunshine and also to dry out a bit between waterings. So this is how you must take care of these plants. It smells so fragrant. I wish you could smell this through YouTube. And this is mint. Mint is one of the easiest plants to grow, and in fact this is the first herb that I remember growing. I must have been about 5 years old. Mint just loves to have a lot of water and it loves to have space to roam. So in a pot it's great to keep it contained, and of course if you're in an apartment you don't have a choice but to keep it contained. So this is the type of soil that it's got. It's kind of a loamy soil. I think there may be a little bit of perlite in there, but this is just your average potting soil. Nothing very special or spectacular here. You can have a little bit of perlite, but it's not completely necessary. Just ordinary non-sandy soil is fine. And make sure that in all your plants you have drainage. So my pots all have drainage, and I keep them on saucers so that the water doesn't go onto the surfaces. So this one is just in a normal plastic pot from the nursery, but it's able to drain. See, it's got drainage holes underneath, and it's able to drain into the pot. Same for this one. Okay, so make sure you give the plants enough light and drainage, and of course you fertilize them, and I'll speak to you about what I do to fertilize these plants. So besides these 2 herbs and the chili, I also have some citrus. 2 quite interesting ones, and I'll start with this one, which looks a little bit bizarre. This is a citrus that is popular here in Asia, and one of the common names is Buddha's hand. And look at the shape of that. This is so fragrant. The entire room smells like this. So citrus like to have water, but also they need a lot of light, and they need to dry out well between waterings. So this one, it's kind of grown bonsai style. I'll show you here. In this lovely pot with some moss, some rocks, and some gravel. But this gravel is just a top dressing. Underneath is normal soil, and there's some companion plants in there and a lovely rock just to make it look beautiful. And over here is a calamondin. Calamondin is a lovely citrus for jams, jellies, tarts, for putting in your drinks as well. You can do that. The inside of the little citrus fruit is quite sour and bitter. It's quite similar to a lemon in taste. But the flesh, well, not the flesh, sorry, the peel is very, very sweet. You can candy that, you can use that to make a marmalade, you can do quite a lot of things with this plant. But how I'm currently keeping it is, it's actually growing out on the balcony. I've just brought this one in to make the video. So this is a plant from my neighbor. My neighbor got it over Chinese New Year, and it had these little red packets with money and stuff inside. And they took the money and they didn't want the plant anymore. So the plant was left in quite a bad condition. It wasn't watered. Most of the leaves were actually shriveled up. So I took off all the leaves that were shriveled up, and there's just a few healthy leaves left on top of this plant. And there are actually 2 of them. So the other one is outside on the balcony. And what I've done is, after taking off all those old shriveled up leaves, I decided to just leave the oranges on because they look so beautiful. And I will let this grow. And there are new little leaves that have started to form. Also, some new flower buds as well, because we are at the end of winter, beginning of spring almost. I can't find the flower buds here in this mass of twigs, but I will keep you updated on the progress of these plants. So I know that this is a healthy plant because the stems are still green. When the stems turn black or brown, then you know it's time to let it go. So, for example, this part of the stem is actually dead. I should probably prune that off, but from here it's still healthy, and it will still be able to make new leaves, shoots, and fruits. So this is what I give the plants currently to grow and thrive. I don't know if any of you can read Mandarin, but this is an organic vermicompost. This is made from worm castings. It's very, very safe. You cannot overdose your plants on this, and it's non-toxic. You can read up a bit about worm tea and vermicompost. And how I use it is I just sprinkle about 2 or 3 tablespoons into the big pots and about 1 tablespoon into the smaller pots, just on the top of the pot, and then I water the pots. I use this about once every 20 days on these plants, and I've only started using it now in the end of winter because the plants are now growing, going into their active growth phase. You don't want to fertilize your plants in winter because they're not actively growing, so they're not going to make optimum use of that fertilizer. What you can give your plants actually in winter is Epsom salts. So Epsom salts, I I think it's got magnesium, if I'm not mistaken. Magnesium is the component of Epsom salts that helps your plants to harden off and get strong so that they can survive the winter. So that's a good thing. You can give them perhaps once a month or once every 2 months in winter. But otherwise, don't fertilize plants in winter. We fertilize them in the beginning of spring and throughout summer to encourage strong, healthy growth. So this is what I'm currently doing for my plants here indoors in Shanghai, making sure they get enough light and fertilizer, good organic fertilizer. Yeah, so that is it. Oh yes, before I forget, so I have a humidifier as well. Now, when you live in an apartment and it's winter, you will most often have air conditioning or heating system, right? And that makes the air very, very dry. So for many plants, like my orchids back here, that is not a good situation. They become very dry, desiccated, especially if you're traveling or if you are going to be leaving that heater on overnight. The plants can very easily dry out. So what I do to keep the air nicely humid is I have a 5-liter humidifier here. There's another 2-liter humidifier in my room where I've got other plants. And I switch them on during the day, and they help the plants to stay happy and healthy. So those are my tips. Make sure that you've got good light, you fertilize in spring and summer, and keep the air nicely humid for your indoor plants. All right, everyone. So that is it for this week's video. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Visit therainqueen.com. And if you want to chat about any of these plants or tips for growing plants indoors, leave a comment or chat to me on Twitter. My handle on Twitter is @the_rainqueen. Bye for now.